Well, hello everyone. You've made predictions, and now I will make some predictions. There will be some overlap with some of the things you've thought about, but not all of it. Let's start domestic, and then we'll work our way out onto the world stage. So, technology is a real interesting concept. Social media is continue to be a problem. I think more than not a problem. Certainly, when it comes to children, social media is very bad. The experiment has been done. Children who get onto social media early in life, um, depression, anxiety, loneliness, increased suicide rates. It's very obvious. Gene Twenge and John Haidt made these predictions even before the studies were completed, but they thought this seems kind of obvious. They were correct. The studies did show, in fact, all of those things to be true. Even if you prevent kids from being on social media, maybe wait till they're 16, 17, 18. Just screen time alone has become a significant problem. Phones in schools. So even if you're not on social media, texting, or playing games or whatever, just being distracted while you're in school. Phones should not be in schools at all. When it comes to kids having phones, lots of screen time at night, it's really damaging their sleep because they're up all night scrolling or doing whatever, playing games. So there needs to be a pullback. I don't know if this is a prediction, but I just want you all to think about it. I guess my prediction is that cooler heads will prevail or something like that, and we'll see those things happen. We'll see a pullback from the age at which kids are able to access these technologies and these items. It should be pushed back. Kids should not be doing all this. Kids need to go outside and touch grass, more or less. When it comes to adults, social media is still largely not great. It's certainly fun. Adults can make bad decisions for themselves, right? We should be free to do that. Um, Social media is fine when it comes to having a place to share photos with your family and friends and to sort of have the ability to reach a group of people and make some plans. Fine. It's a great place to go and have a community where you can talk about your favorite hobbies. I love cooking or movies or games or whatever it is, soccer, right? So I have those communities and I can go engage and get information about those things, and it's a very morally neutral sort of thing, and that's fine. It's funny. When it comes to meaningful discussion, nuanced discussion about complicated issues in society, social media is absolutely not designed for that. Not only is it not designed for it, it's very bad for the don't do it at all. Social media makes political and philosophical discussions very toxic and confusing. It is a bad platform in which to discuss those topics. It will continue to happen, and it will continue to be bad. It will breed disinformation, misinformation, and anybody who can go online and shout to a whole bunch of people and be completely anonymous, you get an increase in psychopathic and narcissistic behaviors. So social media is not great, and it will continue to cause us problems, as well as on the political front, right? Because you can't have the political, nuanced, philosophical discussions be a nightmare over here and then have politics be healthy. Individualism, radical individualism, people seeking fame, wanting to be relevant, wanting to get their voice and their image out there, will continue to be a problem, as well as in politics, which will breed conflict, grandstanding, and infinite disputation, endless disputation, as Heckler says in his article. Political divisions will continue, if not deepen. Though with the end of the Trump era, things may come back to some semblance of calmness by comparison. Trump is a unique figure. Some like him, some hate him. I don't really care about that. He's a unique figure with a unique personality and a unique charisma and a unique ability to read society, and as evidenced by his success in winning 2 presidencies. But MAGA, his Make America Great Again movement, will not last. It is entirely a cult of personality centered around him. And so there is no coherent philosophy to continue forward for another to take up the mantle. J.D. Vance is my guess for the next Republican pick for a presidential candidate. And he'll be different. He won't do things like Trump does things. He's not the same type of character. No one is, which is why MAGA will die. And some sort of right-wing populist America first sort of a movement, I think, will emerge. Just like there's a civil war on the political right, there's a civil war on the political left, and they're reorganizing in various ways. Consider the DNC didn't do a great job of developing young talent within the party. They did a poorer job than Republicans, at least. And so the big names of the younger generation are AOC, and she and Bernie Sanders are touring around the country and drawing lots of audiences. They're very much political outsiders when it comes to the DNC, the kind of claims they make and the kind of ideas they have. And all this is to talk about the gerontocracy that we live in. We're ruled by old people. We have two of the oldest presidents, three presidencies of the oldest presidents: Trump, Biden, and Trump again. Mitch McConnell, Barbara Boxer, or Dianne Feinstein, rather, Nancy Pelosi. We have people, like incredibly elderly people, that are mentally failing while they're in front of cameras. That's not good, and that will pass. And when the new generation comes in, to get to the next point that many of you are interested in, there will be a new set of values that come into the political and cultural milieu of America. Now, it is true, in fact, that the boomers and the Gen Xers have different values and perspectives than do millennials. Are kind of in the middle on this one, but Gen Z and younger. But here's the thing. It is true that there are differences. There's maybe more individualism, materialism, right, in the old guard, and the young guard is more communalistic, maybe communitarian, driven by an appreciation for diversity, right, and inclusivity. So they're going to bring some different things to the table. But I would caution you with this. Young people are always very idealistic. That's just the nature of the game. When they get into the seats of power, when they get older and they experience more of the world, that idealism gets tempered by real experiences. And so the zeal and the idealism of the young people right now will be mitigated to some extent when they come into power. But it'll still be there, and it'll be different from what came before. When it comes to inclusivity and diversity and pluralistic, diverse society and all of that, the younger generation is much more open and comfortable with those things. We're seeing many more blended families, interracial couples, and so that's going to become just very common and normal, and nobody's going to think much about it. Young people don't even consider that stuff anymore in the same way older generations do. When it comes to this is something I actually spent some time studying, so I'll keep it brief, though. So I've spent my time in the last several years really looking at LGBTQIA solidarity movement, but also the divisions within, because consider this: the LGBT movement, lesbians, gays, and bisexuals. And if you're familiar with these groups, or you're a member of these groups, then you may be aware that lesbians and gays don't agree on everything. And the bisexuals in the middle are a bit of a stepchild to that community as well. And then the TQIA, they have a whole series of different claims about the nature of reality, the nature of humans, that conflict with the LGBT claims. So this is not this perfect solidarity movement that is in lockstep. Nonetheless, the old guard within the LGBT community seems a little more hesitant to embrace the TQIA plus as a solidarity movement. Younger generations, though, do seem more willing to consider themselves as one coherent, contiguous group or movement or identity. We'll see how that plays out. I will say this: there was a recent study that came out, I think it was Gallup poll within the last couple of years, that showed a marked decrease in support for a host of social issues, decrease in support towards a conservative direction, as opposed to a progressive or left direction. One of the most notable was drop in support for gay marriage by 7%, which is beyond the margin of error and significant, for the first time in some 26, 30 years since it's been tracked by Gallup. My colleague and I think that the manifestation of the TQIA movement and some of the more extreme claims made by them have negatively impacted sentiment towards gay marriage within the broader society. That's our guess, at least. But again, the younger generation, younger age cohorts don't see this stuff the same way. And so that all may just be a non-issue with younger groups. When it comes to, did I say all the racial and ethnic stuff? So a multiracial society is easy, as long as you get everybody on the same page, a la Oldenquist or Etzioni. You have your society-wide dialogues, you have your megalogs, you develop a moral community where the group, all the different members and different, religions, different ethnicities, and all that's fine, but there has to be a conception of the common good to move forward as a nation, as a society, as a culture. And then you can function, whatever it is. But if you have, that's multiracial, that's fine, because you can get everybody on the same page with different identities and different skin colors. But when you have a multicultural society, what you actually have is multi-society, which is to say, within one nation, one political entity, you have multiple different cultures and communities. And multiple different cultures and communities will have different standards and values and behaviors and expectations, which means they can't be equal. And it means they're probably not going to agree on what the common good is. We're seeing this in Europe right now, and I'm afraid something like this is going to manifest in the United States down the road. And that won't be good. That won't be good. And so I hope that doesn't manifest, and I hope we find a way around it. And I hope we're all able to come together and find common ground. Now onto the international stage, where I spend most of my time. Well, there's a war going on in Ukraine. Russia invaded, and there's a long story about NATO expansion on Russia's border when Russia was weak after the fall of the Soviet Union. You want to hear more about it? Contact me and we can talk about it. The long story short is Russia was mad. They invaded Ukraine, and they're going to win. They're going to win because they have a bigger army with more stuff, and the Ukrainians, while even with the support from Europe and the West, us, the United States, is not going to be enough to stop that. And we're not going to get directly involved with boots on the ground, because we'd win, certainly. But if we push Russia, Putin, back into a corner, he has nukes. And if he feels existentially threatened, nukes are on the table. So we're not going to do that. And so Russia's going to win. There's going to be no ceasefire. There will be an eventual win on the battlefield, which will lead to a peace agreement whereby Russia will annex a third or so of eastern Ukraine and Crimea in the Black Sea. It will look bad for the Europeans. It will look bad for the United States. It will look bad for NATO, because it will be a loss. The Europeans are painting Russia as a grave threat to Europe. I think that is a laughable idea. They can't even mow all the way across Ukraine, much less Poland or Germany. No, laughable. The Europeans are not actually scared of Russia. They're scared of the United States leaving Europe and leaving NATO. Because if NATO, the United States military umbrella over Europe, is taken away, then Europe has to deal with all the different independent European interests, the security needs of each individual European country, and they will have to deal with collective action security problems that they have gotten to ignore since NATO existed. On top of that, they'll have to start spending money on that security, right, their military growth, that will take away from their ability to pay for all those social benefits that people like to talk about so much. So the Europeans are very keen to keep the United States militarily in Europe. And Trump and J.D. Vance and many other Republicans are very keen to get out, particularly because they want to pivot to China and contain China in the Pacific. Israel, Palestine, Hamas, West Bank, yikes. This is a politically fraught conversation for more reasons than I have time for you to explain, but I'll at least say this. The amount of speech infringement that our recent administration has imposed on America in relation to the foreign state of Israel is shocking. The relationship between the United States and Israel is unlike any other relationship between any two states at any time in history. Check it out. It's a very unusual relationship. And what has happened is that the United States does whatever Israel says, and we support them in whatever they do. And currently, they are doing things, right, in Palestine and in Gaza. And just as of a couple days ago, in Qatar, an ally of ours who hosts one of our biggest military bases on the planet. So Israel does what Israel wants within that region, and the United States supports them unconditionally, regardless of how bad it is for us. or for Israel. And this will continue. And this will continue until the Palestinians are wiped out or driven away. And Israel has its greater Israel, its West Bank, its Golan Heights. They've already eaten into Syria since the change in regime in Syria. They've taken parts of southern Lebanon. They're going to expand into the West Bank, expand into Gaza. They're going to take all that over. They're going to expel all, right, non-Israelis, non-Jews, almost all, to the point where they have their ethno-state. And the United States will support all of it. And it doesn't seem like there's any difference between the left and the right on this issue. That's actually not true. I take that back. I take that back. A recent poll, I think, said, no, I was wrong. A recent poll indicated that a majority of Democrats do not favor supporting Israel in this way, or at least make certain claims about genocide or war crimes, where the opposite is true of Republicans. Majority of Republicans do support Israel, don't claim that they are committing any war crimes or committing genocide. All that being said, for the last several years, it doesn't seem to matter. Biden did the same thing that Trump is doing now. Full support. I won't say any more. So this is really interesting to close out. The world is losing people. Now, industrialized states, advanced societies, their birth rates are crashing. Right? You need 2 births per woman to have replacement of your population. Right? It takes a man and a woman to make a kid. We're not going to debate that. And then if they have 1 kid, they've only replaced one of those parents. And if they have 2 kids, they've replaced 2 of those parents. Replacement. Countries like China, South Korea, Japan are well below replacement. 1.3, 1.2, 1.4 kids per woman, which means the population is going to decline by half every generation, which is going to have profound impacts on their ability to function as a state and to have a viable economy. And this is happening to multiple states around the world, not just China, Japan, and South Korea. Italy, Germany, Russia, Spain, and a host of other countries have crashing populations. This is going to have worldwide impact. And at the same time this is happening, the world is deglobalizing. So some of you think the world is going to be more interconnected. I don't think that's right. I think the populations are going to crash and nations are going to pull apart into regional blocks of some sort. And that clash of civilizations that Sam Huntington wrote about in the early 2000s, late 90s, might actually come to fruition. Because the United States doesn't seem to have the willingness to continue to police the seas and create this global system, which it occasionally follows the rules on, if at all. But that's beside the point. Deglobalization and population crash, that's our future, not the opposite. So sorry if this isn't a real rosy, peachy sort of prediction. I will say this, based on what I've heard from John Mearsheimer, and Peter Zeihan, the future, 40, 50, maybe 60 years down the road, whatever happens with the demographics and the social shifts within the United States, I don't really care about that. What is likely to happen is the United States, Canada, and Mexico will form a very coherent bloc with resources, production, skills, value-added economic inputs to create a fairly stable system that can produce stuff and food. And we'll have 2 big oceans for security on either side of us. So while the rest of the world is wrestling with deglobalization and having to sort things out, it will be ugly because we will run out of stuff and food. Yeah. But people that live on the North American continent are positioned to weather this storm better than most. Maybe that's not that optimistic either. Well, good luck to y'all. Bye.